Okay, hi YouTube, Mr. Who's the Boss here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my top 5 PS Vita games of all time.
So, the first game on this list is PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. So as well as being an absolute joy to play, this game is incredible to look at. It runs at a solid 60 frames per second and there's absolutely no hiccups or stuttering. On top of this we have all the content present in the PS3 version right on a handheld device. So that means full multiplayer tournaments, a ridiculous amount of trophies to unlock, and just tons and tons of content. There's offline matches, online matches, arcade mode, trainings, tutorials with every single character, and they're all unique. On top of that there's special boss fights which you can engage in, and they're all part of the main story, and they're quite dynamic and they change things up quite a bit. The online aspect of the game is highly competitive, and you'll face tons and tons of really experienced seasoned pros at this game, so it's not exactly newbie friendly. Having said that, the vast amount of character move lists as well as tutorials should bring most players up to scratch. Number 4, Rayman Legends. Now you probably already know that this game has a reputation for its just outstanding visuals. I mean, it's like a living, breathing painting. Having said that, it's hardly lacking in the content department. As well as having lots and lots of trophies to collect, Rayman Legends has a full 30 hours of gameplay in the main storyline alone, and that's without taking into account the actual possibility of replaying the story, which I've heard a lot of people actually do, just considering how great it is, as well as being able to actually try and collect everything that you can, and trust me, that's a lot of stuff. Rayman Legends is built on a very solid set of mechanics. It builds on what makes Origins great, but at the same time it improves in lots of ways. The jumping feels just right, and Rayman moves at just the right speed. On top of that, the combat is fast and frantic, but doesn't get in the way of the actual experience. If you haven't already played Rayman Legends on any other platform, the PS Vita is probably the best one to enjoy it on, with that fantastic OLED display and the ability to take it wherever you go. Number 3, Super Stardust Delta. Now when the PS Vita launched back in 2011-2012, this game surprised a lot of people on the gaming scene. Not only is it pretty impressive on the visual front, it also actually performs very well and is actually a very interesting new take on the game. So for those of you who are unaware of what Stardust offers, it's basically a twin-stick shooter, but it's actually got quite an interesting twist. You only have 2 weapons, and you only have 2 types of enemies, the red enemies and the blue enemies. You can only kill the blue enemies with your ice attack, and you can only kill the red enemies with your fire attack. While this may seem simplistic to some, I think it has quite a lot of depth, as you're constantly chasing the high scores, as well as unlocking permanent upgrades as you progress through the story. As well as the normal levels, there are also massive boss fights, and these feel pretty epic and quite tense. So if you haven't already tried Super Stardust Delta, I thoroughly recommend it. Number 2, Killzone Mercenary. Now anyone watching this video is probably already aware of this game, but I have to mention it anyway. I mean, not only are the visuals absolutely beautiful, I mean just look at the shaders, but the actual gameplay is very unique and quite satisfying. The game has lots of depth and replayability thanks to the actual ability to earn money for every single kill you do, and being creative with your kills earns you even more. The game rewards both stealth as well as guns blazing approaches, so anyone should find this game quite entertaining, whatever your playstyle. The shooter mechanics are just right as well. I mean, this engine has actually been refined from when Killzone 3 was released, and a lot of people say it's better. The movement is much smoother and feels less clunky, but at the same time the actual weight of the character has been kept. The game runs at a solid 30 frames per second, which is not perfect, but at the same time it's actually quite an achievement considering this is a portable game. And as a result, Killzone Mercenary is a really must-have title. Now my number 1 game is actually Guacamelee, which may surprise some people, but this is the only game I've ever actually bothered to platinum. The main story took me about 7 to 8 hours, which is pretty average for a full-priced release. The combat is the best I've ever experienced on any platforming game ever, and it has tons of depth as well as special abilities that you're constantly unlocking throughout the main story. These special abilities are very carefully distributed, so you start the game with a very limited moveset, but by the time you've completed it, at least for the first time, you'll have a whole arsenal of moves at your disposal. On top of that, you feel like a total badass when you're using them to clear out a whole room of enemies, which happens quite frequently. The running and jumping mechanics are also very finely tuned, and they allow for some memorable platforming experiences. Now the difficulty of this game, especially on the hardest level, is absolutely crushing, but that's what makes it so fun to play. The excellent mechanics, combined with high difficulty, means that this game does not get frustrating, but actually makes you want to keep playing it even more.
So those are my top 5 PS Vita games of all time. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more.